Thank you for joining us. This is live with Miami's Community News, and I'm Michael Miller. Our guest today is Danny Rodriquez with Blue Missions. So congratulations on being here and for doing something that shows that you care about all of us, because the work that you do does affect everybody. So tell us a little bit about Blue Missions.
Yeah, so Blue Missions, first and foremost, it stands for Building Love, Uniting Everyone. And before I can get into Blue Missions, I kind of have to walk you through how I got exposed to the water crisis and the sanitation crisis. And I was a 16-year-old studying at Christopher Columbus High School, and I needed service hours. That's right. We're big fans of Columbus. And my dad said, he had invited me 2 years prior on a mission trip. I said, no, I don't want to go, Dad. The next year, he took my sister.
And what
So
mission trip was that?
this is a group called LIFO Missions based
Okay.
right here out of South Miami. And they do one water project every year in the Dominican Republic. And I participated as a 16-year-old and hopped on a plane with 12 other people. And we drove 3 hours once we landed in the Dominican Republic up into the mountains. And we were working in a town called Benua Arriba, where there were 60 families who were dealing with the water crisis each and every day. And that means that they were walking for water. That means that the children and the women in this community were responsible for grabbing 5-gallon buckets every morning, walking down to the river, collecting water, coming back home, filling up their barrel, and doing that as many times as they need for the water that they use to drink, to clean, to cook, for everything that they were doing. So it was really setting them back. It really doesn't allow them to pursue their dreams.
So what was that like when you're there and you're seeing these ladies pick up, I don't know how much 5 gallons of water is, but it's a lot.
Yeah.
All right. What was it like for you as a 16-year-old to go out there and watch abject poverty and all the stuff that goes along with that? What did it do for you inside?
Yeah, it was just shock and awe. At first it was just we arrive and the building where we're sleeping is a 20 by 10 wooden shed structure that they used as a little store. And they had ripped off, every other 2 by 4 on the side to create a breeze to cool us at night. We were sleeping on cots, bathing with buckets, coming from the first world where I have everything and anything that I could ever need. It was shock as a 16-year-old, and it really kind of came full circle on the last day of the trip when we were testing the aqueduct out and the water shot out through that pipe, and you just see the children bathing under that pipe, dancing, screaming, excited. And then you look around and you see the elders in tears because they know that their grandchildren will never have to go through what they had to go through as
So,
kids.
so you were able, your team, to be able to bring running water to there.
Correct. In conjunction with the community, these are community-led projects. We train water committees and prepare them to be able to lead these projects. And it's a great experience.
So the closest most of us in the United States have come to that is when you turn the sprinklers on, you let your kids or your grandkids run around it, and they're so happy and cheerful. Well, when you saw that this was their first opportunity to really be part of the world and be able to get that, must have been pretty fulfilling.
Yeah, it was extremely special, and it was the first seed that was planted inside of me. I asked myself, how is it that this is how I'm learning about a water crisis? How did I not learn about this in the classroom? We can't solve these global issues unless we know about them.
So as you reflected back on the 2 times your dad had asked you before to do something like that, so what was it like when you had that aha moment?
It was very fulfilling. It was just when you feel fire inside of you, when you feel purpose, when you feel something bigger than yourself driving you in your mission, it really makes it feel like a part of you and not like work.
So when you hugged your dad, I suppose you did at some point, when that experience, what was your dad like when he knew that you got it?
There's phases to this, right? I mean, he was very proud that I participated and was a part of this project, and he didn't know what was coming after that. A few years later, his 2 kids would launch Blue Missions and begin on their journey in the nonprofit sector. And there were times where he was worried how I was going to provide for my family in the future, but always had my back and always supported me, both my parents, my mom and my dad, with this dream.
So one of the things we hope as we get older that we'll be able to, somebody will see a message that we're working on and be able to get part of that and apply themselves to it and be able to help some other people. So you have this international touch. So tell us a little bit about that before we go on to some of the local things.
Yeah, so in 2010, I was 19 years old at FIU. Blue Missions had just been founded, and we said, hey, who wants to come with us to go build our first project down there? And it was myself, my sister, and 10 of our friends. We did our first project in 2010, and since then we've been able to do 190 projects.
So let's talk about the first project. What
Yeah.
was it specifically?
So specifically, this project was helping a school in a small community of La Penda that didn't have a kitchen, didn't have bathrooms, didn't have connection to water. So it was the smallest project we've ever done, based on our budget at the time. And we went into this community, lived with them for 10 days. They opened up their homes to us, and working side by side with the locals every day to build a kitchen for the school, to build bathrooms for the school so that the kids have a place to go.
And where do the supplies come from to do that?
We buy local, most of our products. We do have some sponsors here in the United States, pipe manufacturers and fitting manufacturers that donate supplies, but the majority is bought local.
So when you get done with the project, do you guys like high five each other and go, "This is great"?
Yeah, I think it's special to watch someone go through the journey of a Blue Missions trip, right? Where the first couple days, 2, 3 days, you might be miserable. You might not be able to sleep without AC. You might not like the mosquitoes all around or the spiders on the wall in your room when you're sleeping. But it all goes away after 2 or 3 days.
When you're there and you're living and sleeping in that environment that those residents are dealing with every day,
Correct.
how does your heart not just go out to them and say, "God, this is not right, but we're going to try to make it a little bit better"?
That's what inspires us every single day. That's why we do what we do. That's why we fight so hard for people who don't have a voice. When there's an injustice out there, we're all called to be a part of the solution, and we all have different roles in that solution. But for us, it's personal at Blue. Our core team is we started, me and 3 of my best friends in my 3rd bedroom in a 10 by 10 room with 4 desks, trying to grow this mission and grow our impact. And when you're that passionate about it, when the people around you are that passionate about it, it makes the work easy.
So you have international impact, and we're looking at your report right here. People can get these over. They can take a look at this
Yeah.
on your website. I think the address is going across the bottom. Alex, there we go. So people can check out your website there. So how do you, when you look at this project, does it come to you, or does somebody do you figure out what it is, or do you go to somebody that's at the area where you're going to go and you say, "Here's what we can do there"? How does that happen?
It's a great question. So we've done 190 projects over the course of the past 12 years. We've helped over 40,000 people.
So that's all the time.
Yeah,
All the time.
all the time. Throughout the entire year, we're taking groups, mainly in the summer. But yeah, it's 40,000 people who now have clean water and sanitation, thanks to the support of these volunteers and donors and leaders in these communities.
Do you know how big the Marlins Stadium is? 30-something thousand.
35.
So you've brought water to more than everybody that could fit into the Marlins Stadium.
We have as a team, yeah.
God, that must be an incredible feeling when you go, all those people, our team, this is what the team did. And it's not just water. That's the product, right? But it's a whole bunch of stuff. It's hope and aspirations and life. And we understand with stagnant water, there's so many diseases that are connected to
Yeah,
that.
and it's empowering the locals. These people are just like us. They laugh, they smile, they love, they cry. They share these same emotions, yet they were just born into a different situation that limits their opportunity. So when you're able to provide clean water, bring clean water to a community, what you're doing is just opening up the opportunity for the future generations. Some of those kids in these communities are going to go on to solve and end some of the world's biggest problems, but they never had a chance.
So when some of these little kids see what you did and watching you, are some with you the whole week? Or
Yeah,
how
every
long
day.
does that project typically take?
It's about 8 days.
So they are some of those people. They're there the whole time, and
Yeah.
they watch what you do.
They're not watching, they're actively participating.
Right.
These water committees assign families to have representatives working each and every day because we make sure that they own this project and they contribute.
So they can continue it, and they can start their own. Say, here it is over here.
Imagine without clean water, you can't have a cement block home. Without clean water, you can't have paved roads. What does water bring? It brings everything.
And sometimes when you look at it, you say, "Oh, we're so spoiled." Well, I don't know that we're spoiled, but there's certainly the people that are there that don't have. Certainly, our hearts go out to those people. So we're delighted that you're doing that. So let's talk about, if we can, water quality here in South Florida, in particular Miami-Dade. We know that there's been a lot of concern with our underground pipes breaking, with the 120,000 septic tanks that we have here in Miami-Dade County. There's certainly some parts, smaller parts of Miami-Dade that when it rains a lot, you can't flush your toilets in the north end. What's one of the solutions for this?
It starts with education. It starts with really bringing this issue to the forefront. You know, we are so blessed in the state of Florida to have so much water, so much fresh water in our aquifers. And we need to make sure that we are preserving it. That's the bottom line. There's different issues, right? There's waters that are getting into the bay that have certain chemicals in them. There is, pollution, obviously. There's septic tanks. There's old infrastructure. And all of these things together is what preserves our water system. So it's about prioritizing it. It's about educating our youth about how important clean water is. Because if they understand that, they're going to be empathetic and understanding of how important this issue is for our community to make sure that we don't end up like a lot of cities in the West Coast and a lot of areas in that part of the country who are going to be dealing with serious water issues in the coming years.
So we knew that during the pandemic, Biscayne Bay was blue as this wall is. It was like crystal blue, just like on some of the islands. But then as we started using that again, just no different than the airways or the streets, we started seeing the effect of using things. And so we know that some in the Everglades where the state has allocated a lot of money to try to make that work better. Can you tell us anything that you know about the Everglades and how we're going to make this better?
Yeah, so the Everglades is actually a river. It's a huge flowing river that flows down south into Florida, and Lake Okeechobee is the heartbeat of our water down here in South Florida. So what we'd like to see is more water flowing south, more water flowing into the Everglades, and to be able to store that water there. It's key to be able to store the water in areas. That's probably the biggest and the mega project that's going on with the Everglades. It's the ability to store water, filter it, to then be able to flow it down into the Everglades in Miami-Dade County and in Broward County. So yeah, the Everglades, there's a lot of great people working on these issues. The Everglades Foundation, Miami Waterkeeper, Sink or Swim Project, these are all organizations that if this is a cause that's important to you, check those organizations out to see how you can be a part of the solution.
So one of the things I know the county does, and my hat's off to them, they try to enforce, do not dump your stuff outside your car, because that all begins when you start throwing trash out on the street. Then you might be the guy that puts the gas into the ground, or you might be the one that dumps the paint in the ground. All those things as little kids learn, either way. And so we understand that it's important. And also, I think starting very shortly, the county said, please do not fertilize your yards in a certain time frame. I think it's this time frame. Just wait, because the rainy season is going to come and going to start to pollute some of our, the underground. So let's talk about your camps that you have. We have some coming up in a month or 6 weeks or so. So tell us about that.
Yeah, so our educational division called REACH was born in the pandemic when we couldn't travel to build these aqueducts during that time. And we always thought, this is such a great opportunity to travel abroad and work on a water project, and it really impacts the kids that participate. But we can really make a bigger impact if we do something local, if we do something that is more accessible, available to more students, and start planting those seeds that I had to get on a plane and go to the Dominican Republic and drive into this community to learn about. Let's start introducing that at a younger age, so that we know that it exists. And that's the kind of the reason why we launched the REACH program. It stands for Reflection, Education, and Action to Connect Humanity. And within that program, there's 4 pillars. And what we're excited to talk about today is cause camps. These are summer camps for middle school students that teach them, give them the skills, allow them to reflect, and allow them to physically take part in the solutions for different environmental issues that we're facing as a community, whether it be restoring the Everglades, whether it be invasive species and their removal, whether it be futuristic farming, sustainable shopping. There's a lot of different themes that are covered, and there's 2 field trips every week for participants where they're going to be restoring coral in the bay. They're going to be on floating classrooms on the water. They're going to be removing invasive species in the Everglades. So lots of stuff. So
let's say at the end of the session, what do you want them to walk out with? When they say, thanks very much, coach, professor, teacher, Danny, and team, what do you want them to have inside?
I'd say 2 things: a better understanding of the issues and how they affect us directly here in South Florida, and also a realization that they do have the power to change the world. That it doesn't matter how old you are, you can start now, and that will inspire others to also get involved.
The things that we know is very impactful when we see these ships picking up debris out of the ocean, or when it goes up on the seashore, and you realize how much trash there is that we put there. And not too long ago, there were some party goers out on a boat. They were putting balloons in the water.
Yeah,
They got. I don't know if they got arrested, but there's
there's a fine involved.
yes, but they didn't think anything of it. But we know, all right, that tell us what kind of critters eat the stuff that we throw off boats or leave on beaches.
There's so many problems with dumping in the oceans, right? It's both harm to the animals, harm to the bay. It's just, the turtles, fish, anything, right? They're just, they're not the smartest animals. They don't have brain power like we do. They see it, they think food, right? So any marine life is at risk when we're throwing things into the ocean.
And it's interesting because we put that stuff, make sure we run that on the bottom, Alex. When we put stuff in the ocean, then we go fishing. And we're catching the fish that we've poisoned, right? It's just a slower poison with the little pieces of plastics, and that's a big deal. So tell us a little bit more again about the summer camp. Where is that being held?
Yeah, so the summer camp is taking place in the Kendall area at Somerset Academy Bay. That's located off of Kendall and 97th Avenue. It's geared for middle school students, so rising 6th, 7th, and 8th graders are welcome to participate in this camp. And it's going to be a special experience. We talk a lot about social impact pathways. We want to tie the issues directly to careers that address these issues and show our youth these are careers that maybe you've never heard about. What is an environmental biologist? What do the people at Miami Waterkeeper do or at Everglades Foundation? Xavier Cortada, who's an amazing artist who promotes environmental sustainability, he's going to be a part of this and also help show the kids how art and activism go hand in hand.
There was a young lady, she was in 10th grade, and at some point when she was very young, when she was in 2nd grade, she went to her mom and dad and said, listen, Daddy, there's some children that can't read. And something sparked her inside. And I hope that in your camp there's a spark that happens, because between 2nd grade and 10th grade, she's redistributed now 330,000 books. Sometimes you never know when it's going to happen, whether it's the first day of camp or the last day, or it's one little thing that say, I can do that. And so you've been working with people from overseas and here. Have you seen the transition with some people? They walk in, I don't want to say skeptical, but walk in sort of neutral. And then all of a sudden, a week or a month later, they got this bug to help.
100%. Happens all the time. It's the magic of the campo, as we call it. And campo means rural village. And yeah, the kids need people to tell them that they can be whatever they want to be. They need people to empower them and to tell them you can accomplish your goals.
So this is happening all the time with you when you're there and you see these people, they're in.
Yeah. Or watching the light bulb go off, they get it.
That must be pretty rewarding. I mean, you're still pretty young, all right, to be able to make such an impact. And sometimes that is a forever impact.
Yeah. And it's been 13 years, right? We're on our 13th year. So a lot of the kids that came on with us early on, they're adults now, and you watch the way their careers have gone. And most of our volunteers come back for a second trip. It's for a second project. We write letters of recommendation for them as they go on to the university, and we're there for them. We're family. Blue is family for life.
And in the camp, the students can also get some community
service hours.
Community
Yeah,
service hours.
Each week of camp, there's 20 community service hours. And I think it's just good to do these unique. It's not a basic service opportunity, right? It's not a cookie cutter service opportunity. We're reflecting on the issue, we're learning about the issue, and then we're acting on the issue.
This is like almost a spiritual awakening. As I'm talking to you, it's like, wow. And sometimes if you're lucky in life, you find that, and sometimes you never know where it's going to come from. So, and how many students typically do you have in the camp?
So the camp has a limit of 150 campers per week.
Mm-hmm.
It is first come, first serve. If you receive your issue of the community newspaper this month, you'll see a discount code in there.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's capped, so we do expect it to be full for the 8 weeks.
And you have a whole team out there of young people. Do you have anybody over the age of 50?
Yeah.
Okay, tell us
Yeah,
about
yeah.
that. Not that I'm over the age of 50, but tell us about that.
On our staff, you're saying?
Yes.
Yeah, so our U.S. program director is Nikki Moore, and she leads up our Reach team, which has various programs, including cause camps. And we have a full staff ready to go for this summer. A lot of our past volunteers, a lot of our high schoolers that travel with us abroad are going to be working and transferring that blue culture, that blue knowledge that we have into the program as well.
It's amazing that you and your team were able to do that, to take it from, Dad, I'll go on one of those trips. So it was the third offer, and going back to that, you offered it one time, then a year later. Was it the third time you went or the second?
You're saying when Blue was created?
Yes.
Yeah, so I went 3 times with LIFO missions. I had invited all my friends and family, and the group got too big since they only do one project every year. And the founder, Albert Perez, said, why don't you start a group and we can help 2 towns every year instead of one? And that's what we originally thought we were going to do.
So where did you get the confidence to say, I can do that? Where did that come from?
And I've always been an entrepreneur. I've always, started different ventures, exited different ventures. And at 19 years old, as a finance student at Florida International University, this was the most I ever felt alive, and coming back from these trips. And I knew that, there was a role for myself and for my team to play in ending the water crisis.
So you found a journey of passion and of understanding and of excellence. But at some point, you must have said, I can really do this.
Yeah.
But how did you know what the path was?
Yeah, I mean, there's many inflection points on the journey, right? Traveling for the first time there was a huge one for me. And then I'd say the next one was after our third project in 2012. We worked in the town of Carrasco, a community of 30 families.
The whole community is 30.
The whole community was 30 families, rice growing region of the Dominican Republic, and no concrete structures in the community. It was wood framing with banana leaves on the outside of these homes. So poorest community that we had ever worked in to date. There was a group of kids, about 8 of them, that every morning they would wake us up, and every night they would walk us to the school and to the church where the boys and girls were sleeping separately. And the daughter of the leader of the community, her name's Violenia Esteves. And before we got onto the bus on that last day after water had arrived and we had celebrated the night before, she stopped me and she said, thank you for giving me the opportunity of pursuing my dream of becoming a lawyer. In
Wow.
Spanish. At 10 years old, she said that. And
Did you start crying right then?
definitely was emotional, hugged her. I was very involved in the preparation of this community, so I had visited many times before the project even began. And it really said, this is the type of stuff you see in a commercial or in a movie, and it just happened in real life, right in front of me. And that was the inflection point where I was actually committed to stay in the Dominican Republic. I was living there at the time to work for a bank, and I rescinded my acceptance of that offer and said I'm going back home and we're going to grow Blue Missions.
Wow. So that was the moment when you said,
That was the moment.
this is it, right?
That was the moment.
Tell me about healthcare for these people. What does that look like?
Well, before we get to healthcare, I just want to shout out Violenia Esteves, who is in her 3rd year pursuing her law degree on a full ride at the private university in Santiago, where our headquarters is. And,
Very nice.
we're going to be
Congratulations.
highlighting her this year at our gala and her story.
That's tremendous.
Yeah. Yeah, she's a special person.
I got goosebumps. Thanks.
Me too.
Good for you, man.
Me too.
All right. So tell us about. Okay. Tell us about FIU. What's going on there with you?
Well, FIU, I'm an alumni. We have a lot of volunteers that come from the university. We're also aligning ourselves with their environmental department and just trying to build more bonds with FIU. We don't have any official partnerships in place as of right now. We've done their alternative break program, facilitated that experience for their students. But we think there's a lot of room to grow there.
So tell us what the next 5 years looks like, Danny.
The next 5 years include scaling our domestic programs that they're in their first year right now. So we want to expand this through the state. We're looking at Orlando, we're looking at Tampa, we're looking at smaller communities as well across the state to impact curriculum, to be able to get our virtual education courses in front of more students around the state, and just continuing to expand our impact internationally as well. You know, bringing clean water to communities and bringing sanitation and then preserving that water through reforestation as well.
An amazing journey that you've been on. And I'm glad you've taken some of your friends with you and to be able to really make a difference. And we can obviously see you're very passionate about it, and you are really making a difference.
Thank you. Thank you.
All
And
right.
it's thanks to the support of everyone who has had our back since day one.
And there are a lot.
There's a lot of them down here in Miami.
And anything else you'd like to say before we wrap it up?
Just thank you for the opportunity of being here. And yeah, if you have a middle school student in your house, this is a great summer camp to be a part of. We're going to teach them how to reflect, teach them about the issues that we're facing as a community, and give them the tools that they need to take these issues on.
Terrific. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Rodriquez of Blue Missions. Folks, thank you. Give them a holler. Their website address is right up there, or you can find them on Google. Folks, thanks very much for your time. Have a great day.